Every year, something kills more humans than war, more than famine, more than sharks, snakes, lions, and every other predator on the planet combined. It doesn't have claws, it doesn't have venom fangs, it weighs less than a raindrop. And right now, there are probably several of them within 20 feet of you. The mosquito has killed more humans than any other creature in the history of civilization. And the terrifying part isn't just how many people they kill, it's how they do it, why we can't stop them, and the very real possibility that they are actively getting worse. So, what exactly makes this tiny, almost laughably fragile insect the single deadliest animal on the planet? And is there actually any way to stop it? To understand just how dangerous mosquitoes are, you first need to understand the actual scale of what we're dealing with. Because most people hear mosquito and think annoying. They think itchy ankles at a summer barbecue, they think mild inconvenience. But the numbers tell a very different story. Mosquitoes are responsible for approximately 750,000 human deaths every single year. For context, sharks kill around 10 people a year, wolves kill maybe 10 more. Even hippos, which are notoriously aggressive and genuinely terrifying, only kill around 500 people annually. Mosquitoes kill 750,000. That's not a typo. That's every single year, reliably, with almost no variation, like clockwork. And that number has likely been conservative, because in regions with limited medical infrastructure, deaths often go unrecorded altogether. But even that number doesn't capture the full picture, because beyond the deaths, mosquitoes infect hundreds of millions more people every year who survive, but are left permanently weakened. Children who survive cerebral malaria often suffer lasting neurological damage. People infected with certain mosquito-borne viruses can be left with chronic joint pain for years. Some mosquito-transmitted parasites don't kill you quickly. They just slowly dismantle your body over time. The death count is only half the horror. The suffering underneath that number is almost incomprehensible. So how does something this small do something this catastrophic? The mosquito isn't actually a predator in the traditional sense. It's not hunting you down out of aggression. It doesn't want to fight you. In fact, male mosquitoes don't bite at all. They feed entirely on nectar and plant sugars. The ones targeting you are exclusively female. And they aren't after your blood as a food source either. They need it for something far more specific. Blood contains proteins that female mosquitoes need to develop their eggs. Every time a mosquito bites you, she's essentially stealing biological material to reproduce. You're not being attacked. You're being harvested, and this is where the real danger begins. Because the mosquito doesn't just take, it gives something back. When a female mosquito pierces your skin, she first injects a small amount of her own saliva into the wound. This saliva contains anticoagulants which stop your blood from clotting so she can feed more efficiently. But that saliva is also the delivery mechanism for everything she's been carrying. If she fed on an infected host before you, whatever was living in that host is now inside you. The mosquito herself doesn't get sick from any of this. She's just the vehicle. A biological syringe with wings, flying between hosts, completely immune to the very things she's spreading. The most deadly of these things she spreads is malaria. Malaria is caused by a parasite called Plasmodium, and it is one of the oldest, most evolved, and most persistent killers in human history. When an infected mosquito bites you, the parasite enters your bloodstream and travels almost immediately to your liver, where it silently multiplies for 1 to 2 weeks. You feel completely fine during this period. No symptoms, no warning. Then one day, it erupts into your blood cells, destroying them in waves. Fever spikes to dangerous levels, intense chills, severe headache. Your body starts attacking itself, trying to fight something it barely understands. In the worst cases, the parasite crosses the blood-brain barrier and causes cerebral malaria, which has a fatality rate of up to 25% even with treatment. Without treatment, it approaches 100%. And here's what makes malaria so uniquely horrifying. It's been doing this for a very, very long time. We've found Plasmodium DNA in mosquitoes preserved in ancient amber. Ancient Egyptian medical texts describe its symptoms. It likely contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire, killing soldiers and civilians faster than any enemy army could. Genghis Khan's armies were allegedly slowed by it. Alexander the Great almost certainly died from it. For most of human history, malaria wasn't just a disease. It was a dominant force shaping which civilizations rose and which ones collapsed. And despite having thousands of years to figure it out, it still kills over 600,000 people annually, the majority of them children under the age of 5. Because the parasite is not just persistent, it's smart. It mutates. Every time we develop a new drug treatment, the parasite eventually evolves resistance to it. Chloroquine was once a miracle drug. Now large portions of the Plasmodium population are completely resistant to it. The same story has played out with multiple other treatments. We have an approved malaria vaccine now, but its efficacy sits at around 30 to 40%, which is frankly astonishing for a vaccine in the modern era. But it reflects just how sophisticated this parasite is at evading immune responses. But malaria is just one item on the mosquitoes menu, because they don't just carry one thing. Dengue fever is transmitted by mosquitoes and infects an estimated 400 million people every year. Most cases are survivable but deeply unpleasant. Severe joint and muscle pain so intense it's nicknamed breakbone fever. But roughly 20,000 people die from it annually. And here's the particularly cruel twist. If you survive dengue once and get infected by a different strain of the virus, your second infection is actually more dangerous than your first. Your immune system, recognizing the threat, overreacts in a way that causes your blood vessels to leak, leading to internal bleeding and organ failure. Your own immune response becomes the weapon. Then there's the Zika virus, which became a global health emergency in 2015 and 2016 when it swept through South America.
Growing effort to rein in the mosquito-borne Zika virus, spreading through parts of South and Central America.
Zika itself is mild in most adults, but in pregnant women, it crosses the placenta and attacks the developing brain of the fetus, causing microcephaly, babies born with severely underdeveloped brains. An entire generation of children in parts of Brazil were affected. The virus was spreading so fast that some health authorities advised women in affected regions to delay pregnancy entirely. Not because of what Zika would do to the mother, but because of what the mosquito carrying it would do to children not yet born. West Nile virus, yellow fever, chikungunya, lymphatic filariasis, a parasitic infection that causes the grotesque swelling of limbs known as elephantiasis. The mosquito is not carrying one weapon, it's carrying an entire arsenal. So why can't we just get rid of them? This is the question that seems obvious and yet has no easy answer. And the deeper you go into it, the more unsettling it becomes. The first problem is sheer numbers. There are approximately 110 trillion mosquitoes on Earth at any given time. That's roughly 14,000 mosquitoes for every single human being alive. They exist on every continent except Antarctica. They've been found in Arctic tundra. They breed in the water collected inside a bottle cap. A single female can lay up to 300 eggs at a time, and those eggs can hatch in as little as 48 hours. Eliminating them isn't a pest control problem. It's a logistical impossibility at a scale most people can't even conceptualize. The second problem is evolution. Mosquitoes have been on this planet for over 100 million years. They survived whatever wiped out the dinosaurs. They have adapted to every climate, every terrain, every chemical we've thrown at them. DDT was once considered the ultimate solution. Entire nations used it aggressively across the mid-20th century, and it worked, temporarily. Then mosquito populations began developing resistance, and DDT's devastating effects on other wildlife and human health made it a catastrophe in its own right. The same story repeats with almost every insecticide we develop. We kill 99% of the population, and the 1% that survives is naturally resistant. Those survivors breed. Within a few generations, the whole population carries the resistance gene. We've been in an arms race with an insect for 100 years, and we are not winning. The third problem is ecology. As much as we despise them, mosquitoes occupy a real position in multiple ecosystems. They are a food source for birds, bats, fish, and other insects. In Arctic tundra, they are so numerous during summer months that they form the primary food source for migratory birds. Some plants are pollinated by them. Removing them entirely wouldn't just be difficult. It would send ripples through ecosystems in ways that are genuinely hard to predict. Nature doesn't leave vacuums empty. Something would fill the gap, and there's no guarantee that something would be better. So what are we doing? There are some genuinely fascinating, genuinely strange approaches being developed right now. The most controversial is genetic modification. A company called Oxitec has been releasing genetically modified male mosquitoes into wild populations. These males carry a gene that causes their offspring to die before reaching adulthood. Since only females bite, releasing these self-limiting males doesn't increase the biting population, but it does crash the local mosquito population in target areas. Field trials in parts of Brazil, the Florida Keys, and other locations have shown significant reductions in Aedes aegypti mosquito populations, the primary carrier of dengue, Zika, and yellow fever. But this approach makes a lot of people deeply uncomfortable, and not without reason. Deliberately releasing genetically modified organisms into wild ecosystems is something we've never done at scale before. We don't fully know the downstream effects. Critics argue we could be creating a gap in the food chain, or potentially triggering unforeseen genetic consequences in related species. Supporters argue that doing nothing kills 750,000 people a year, and that the ethical math strongly favors action. It's one of the more genuinely difficult ethical debates in modern science, and it's happening right now, not in some distant hypothetical future. Another approach involves a bacteria called Wolbachia. When mosquitoes are infected with certain strains of Wolbachia, their ability to carry and transmit dengue, Zika, and other viruses is dramatically reduced. Scientists have been releasing Wolbachia-infected mosquitoes into wild populations, and because Wolbachia spreads naturally through reproduction, once it's established in a local population, it tends to stay there. Early results from field deployments in Australia, Colombia, and parts of Asia have shown up to 77% reductions in dengue cases in treated areas. It's one of the most promising developments in mosquito control in decades. But here's the part that should genuinely concern you, because everything we've discussed so far assumes the problem stays roughly where it currently is. It isn't. Climate change is expanding mosquito habitats at a pace that's outrunning our control efforts. Mosquitoes require warm temperatures and standing water to breed. As global temperatures rise, regions that were previously too cold for mosquito survival are becoming viable. Aedes aegypti has been recorded in parts of Europe that had never seen it before. Dengue cases have appeared in Florida, Texas, and southern Europe. Diseases that were previously almost entirely confined to tropical and subtropical regions. The WHO has warned that by 2080, an additional 1 billion people could be exposed to mosquito-borne diseases as a result of climate shifts alone. 1 billion additional people, not a worst-case projection, a realistic modeling estimate based on current warming trajectories. And the mosquitoes moving into these new regions aren't just carrying the diseases we already know. As their range expands, they interact with new animal reservoirs, birds, rodents, livestock, potentially picking up and adapting to transmit diseases we've never seen in human populations before. The mosquito isn't just holding steady, it's advancing. There's a strange, almost dark irony at the center of all of this. The animal we swat at without thinking, the one that interrupts sleep with a high-pitched whine and leaves a bump that we scratch and forget, is the same animal that has shaped the trajectory of human history more than almost any other force. It has toppled empires. It has stopped invasions. It has killed more soldiers than bullets have in multiple wars. It has directed where humans can and cannot settle, which has influenced trade routes, colonization, and the economic development of entire continents. Researchers have estimated that if you added up every human killed by mosquitoes throughout all of recorded history, the number approaches 52 billion people, roughly half of every human being who has ever lived on this planet, half of all humans who ever lived, killed by something you could crush between two fingers. The mosquito doesn't have intelligence. It doesn't have strategy. It doesn't even have the goal of harming you. It's just a tiny biological machine running on instinct, doing exactly what it was built to do. And yet, in doing that one simple thing, it has left a body count that no war, no plague, no famine, no predator, and no natural disaster in the entirety of human history has ever come close to matching. So, the next time one lands on your arm, before you swat it, appreciate for just a second that you're looking at the most dangerous thing that has ever existed on this planet, then kill it.